Penguins live in Antarctica and are loved for their silly looks. The head of the penguin is black and bright, the same color as the neck and back, but the chest and abdomen are white. The black and white of the penguin body complement each other, as if a gentleman wearing a tuxedo. Their tails can be used to support their bodies. They often stand tall as masters of the South Pole, waiting for distant guests, hence the name penguins. There are about 18 species of penguin in the world, the largest of which are the emperor and Adelie penguins, which live mainly on the Antarctic continent. Emperor penguins can stand up to 1.2 meters tall and weigh up to 45 kilograms, so they are called emperor penguins, which means the king of penguins. The emperor penguin is also the world's largest seabird. Adelie penguins, by contrast, are no more than 30 centimeters tall and weigh only about 6 kilograms, making them very small. Penguins are monogamous in love, but they only stay together in pairs during breeding season. During breeding, they recognize each other by their calls and movements. Penguins have been observed for more than a decade, and 82% of them have maintained their original mating. But a quarter of the males die during the breeding season because they can't find a mate. Sometimes, penguins find a mate again, but only under very special circumstances, such as the death of a spouse. Sometimes, two geese will fight over a single male, and the male will mate only with the winner. After the female penguin lays her eggs, the male will join her in a joyous song, and the surrounding penguins will join in the song to congratulate them. During the laying period, the females are unable to eat for a long time. During the incubation period, the females leave the nest to forage for food while the males incubate the eggs. The males and females alternate brooding over a 2-week interval. They incubate the eggs in turn until the young are born. Some penguins incubate their eggs on only one side, but this can be very tiring. Because the incubation period of penguins is very long, at least more than a month, more than 2 or 3 months. In such a long time, penguins in the wind and cold do not eat motionless incubating eggs until the chicks hatched. As a result, incubators lose 40% of their body weight. When the chicks are born, they must be fed by their parents for half a year before they can live independently. Penguins raise their chicks in one of 2 ways. One is raised by a parent together. As during the incubation period, the female and male work alternately, with one guarding the nest while the other goes out to forage. In the second, the parents leave the chicks to be raised by several older penguins, just as parents send their young to their grandparents. Despite this, the survival rate of the chicks is very low, with 3/4 dying. Some parents who lose their chicks snatch them from other parents to feed them, even by force, and an inevitable fight ensues. Penguins have many special abilities. The first is the ability to find your way. Scientists once conducted an experiment in which several penguins were placed in a closed box, transported to a distant place and released. Amazingly, these penguins were able to return to their original breeding grounds, not relying on any signs, but following the shortest route. Scientists are intrigued by their ability to do this, but no one knows why. The second is that parents can accurately identify their own chicks. It turns out that there are very subtle differences in scent and song between the chicks, and based on these differences, the parents can spot their chicks accurately, and surprisingly, they barely make a mistake. In addition, penguins have a strong sense of time. Each year, they return to their former breeding grounds at the same time and can calculate exactly when their pups will be born. Often, when they time their return from the sea, the pups are born. Of course, penguins have their circadian clocks off, and even then, their ability to remember time is pretty amazing. Penguins are the largest clan of Antarctic birds. Penguins have the same head and beak as birds, and 2 wings, but they cannot fly. In the sea, however, it can swim merrily like a fish, reaching speeds of up to 18 kilometers per hour. Over time, penguins have changed their wings into fins, short and flat like paddles, and have lost the ability to fly. Its 2 feet are very close to the tail, short and stout, so that at ordinary times can only jump, or with the mouth and flippers crawl. When in danger, penguins will roll and crawl to action, appear very cute. Although no penguin fossils have been found dating back 45 million years, paleontological research suggests that penguins must have appeared in the Tertiary period 50 million years ago, but no new evidence has been found. When it comes to the origin of penguins, everyone is very concerned about whether the ancestors of penguins can fly. Or did penguins become flightless later on in evolution? Many of the penguins' features point to an ancestor that flew. Though its fins became short and flat like paddles, they were still flywings, a structure formed by joining the wrist and metacarpal bones together, well suited for the clinging of its flight and calamus feathers, which it needs to fly. Though penguin quills have long since faded, the structure that supports them remains. Not only that, penguins and flying birds have similar sternal features. Penguins, for example, have distinct keel bumps on their sternum, where flight muscles are attached. The scientists point out that another prominent feature of the penguin as evidence that its ancestors could fly is the presence of tail, stomps on its body. The ancestors of birds, which evolved from lizards, inherited a long tail made up of vertebrae. Over the course of evolution, the bird's coccygeal bone gradually shrank under hydrodynamic and motion. Eventually, it was used only to support the fan-shaped tail feathers. It becomes a little knuckle. This is the tail bone. From the earliest Archaeopteryx to modern flying birds, this tail bone has been present. In addition, flying birds need to be very fast to adjust their muscles and coordinate their body movements during flight. As a result, the cerebellum is highly developed. The penguin cerebellum is also complex and well-developed, which could be evidence that its ancestors could fly. What's more, penguins sleep with their beaks tucked under their wings, as do flightless birds, suggesting that there must be a connection between penguins and flying birds. Some scientists think there are many kinds of origin of birds. Unlike other birds, penguins are directly evolved from reptiles, and their ancestors could not fly. That is to say, the penguin fin is not a variation of the so-called wing, but an evolution of the reptile forelimb. It did not go through the stage of flight. In recent years, scientists have linked penguins in the southern hemisphere to extinct merivans in the northern hemisphere. By comparing their structures, they have found that there must be some connection between penguins and merivans found along the coast of America. Merivans are 30 million years old and flightless, so some scholars have proposed that penguins originated from gulls in the North Atlantic. The penguin's skeletal body resembles that of the Murray in many ways, especially in its adaptation to surface swimming and diving. But the problem is that there is no definitive evidence of their relationship, since they are located in two different hemispheres and their fossils appear at about the same time. In Antarctica, paleontologists found a fossil about 1 meter high, weighed about 9 kilograms, very similar to modern penguins, and has amphibian characteristics. Perhaps this fossil is the ancestor of penguins. No matter what the above explanation, due to the lack of sufficient evidence, people do not agree. At present, zoologists are still unable to fully explain whether the ancestors of penguins could fly.